Hello, this is Gary from Zanesville Video History Group. I've been kind of wanting to do a video on the early history of Zanesville, and I thought it would be a great time to do some little short documentary of the early history of Zanesville. Uh, since we're getting ready to we're in the planning stages of the Zane Trace commemoration, which will be next June next year. Not this year, next year. And so I thought it'd be a fine time to dig right into it, and so we can lay a history background on how Zanesville got started. A number of years ago, many of you followed me in the building of a model similar to the one that's on the table here now. This is a map of what Zanesville, this groundwork, what Zanesville will look like when Jonathan Zane and John McIntyre came to the forks of the Muskingum and Licking River. This is kind of what they saw. It was a very rough and rugged piece of ground, which our great grandparents, a couple of great grandparents, took the time and effort to carve out and shape and rework this massive piece of it. It was something. You can see cricks. These are cricks up by where the YWCA is today. There on 6th Street. There was a nice sized pond right there. This is the piece of ground that's over by the senior center, what used to be the Big Bear. A big hill with a creek that went down to the river. So it was not anything like what we would have thought. Over here, this is Main Street. Over where in the area just south of St. Thomas Church, there was a gully down there that was deep enough that a covered wagon could go down there, and you couldn't see the canvas on it. So it's like I'm saying, it was a pretty rugged piece of ground. So about a year last year, I went and remade this new map that you're going to see. Let me position the camera here and tilt her down there. Okay, so I want to first talk about Ebenezer Zane. Ebenezer Zane gets the credit because he was commissioned to put a road that went from Wheeling to down through Ohio down to Kentucky, and he did so. But he did travel some of the area on horseback, but records don't show anything of him actually being in the downtown there, what you're seeing now, the area of Zanesville. He basically worked out of the Wheeling area as a base. He would have been like a commander. He had men who worked for him and did the legwork. Two of those gentlemen was Jonathan Zane and John McIntyre. Now, John McIntyre and Jonathan Zane, they actually kind of stumbled into this community area that we see today because they were up by the fairgrounds area and they followed Chap's Run all the way down across West Main Street down to where White Chevrolet was to this area somewhere around here. I don't have it on the map very well, but anyway, they came through on Chap's Run. So we're going to say the two gentlemen were about right here, and they viewed this area here of the Licking and Upper Muskingum River, and it would have been quite a sight to see. Back in the day, there used to be an island at the end of the Licking River in Muskingum. It was known as Goose Island. It had a lot of trees and vegetation on it, a great nesting area for the geese. The Indians, Native Americans, this was also an Indian trail that went up through here. They went across the Licking, over on the Linden side, and across the waterfalls. This was a waterfalls, not a dam, waterfalls, and across up through there. The other big landmark area was there was a big flat rock up here where the canal is today. Right where I have my pin at right now is where the B&O Railroad Bridge would have been. They had to, when they built the canal, they had to break this rock off. So the canal would have been here, the big bridge right here. And what is so neat about this big rock, that it was big enough that they could square dance on it and have bonfires. John McIntyre, back in the day, if you read in the stories, he helped to buy the freedom of a slave that was from Maryland. Paid $100 for him, and told him he didn't want him as a slave. Told the fellow his name was Black Mess. That's what they called him. And but he played the fiddle, and supposed to have been a really nice, jolly guy. And he worked for John McIntyre. McIntyre paid him $50 a month, which would have been a wonderful salary. But worked for John McIntyre, and he loved to play the fiddle. So he played the fiddle on the big rock, and they had bonfires on this big rock, which is no longer there. The other neat landmark was the natural waterfalls that is where today's present dam is today. There was somewhere between a 3.5 to 4 foot drop in the waterfalls here. So I imagine lots of trees, old driftwood and stuff that was hanging down through there. I kind of robbed all the trees off of this because I'm working on the big railroad map, and I need trees, so I took all the trees off this, but I had driftwood and everything on this. This is a kind of a last minute decision to do this video, so I don't have all my props where I need to be. But that was one of the other landmarks. John McIntyre built his little house when he finally decided he's going to stay in Zanesville, down at the end of 2nd Street and Market along the river. This today is now present day railroad area. And they had, you read in the books that they had a little ferry outfit. So the little ferry boat would have been here, and they ferried across the river over towards Lee Street, and that's the location that the ferry boat would have been. So that's a little bit of the early history of Zanesville. The next video I'm going to do, I'm not sure when I'm going to do it, probably in another couple of days, will be all about John McIntyre, a very important figure in the history of Zanesville. So tell your friends and your neighbors about this video series. We want to try to get everybody all excited about the Zane Trace commemoration. It is very worth celebrating, and to celebrate it correctly, you need to know the history of your community. So for right now, I thank you for your time, and share this video with your friends, and We'll see you the next time. Thank you.